Good evening, televiewers. You are welcome to another edition of Prime Hour on My Media Prime. On this edition of the program, we are going to be looking at the press release that was issued on the 19th of August this year by members of the Fako Lawyers Association in reaction to the appointment or the decision of the Higher Judicial Council appointing magistrates all over the Republic of Cameroon in general and the Fako division in particular. They are actually angry at the appointment of civil law magistrates in Fako court. We equally are going to be answering the question as to whether politicians in Cameroon have helped to construct or destroy this nation. But very briefly, we are going to start with what happened early this morning in Bojongo, a quarter in Bonaberi in Douala, where the population of that community were surprised early this morning by elements of the forces of law and order asking them to leave their respective homes. Over 500 families have been rendered homeless because the piece of land on which they have been living on is said to belong to a business tycoon here in Douala, a certain Mr. Kandem. Ella, if we have some interviews from some of the victims of what took place out here in Douala today, can we listen to them and make our first reactions?
Yes, my brother. Let's see what will happen for Bojongo. Just the morning time, it starts since Thursday. 1 week of morning time, I'm in the surrender will compound. I'm the surrender will quarter. Said they'll blow it. But why wait the case is still for court? They never yet give judgment. Because if I told them say they don't give judgment, they don't kind of proceed, they notify we. Some will come out. But they never yet notify we. And the case is there for court. Even this man will claim this land title. They don't suspend your land title. So we don't know for the various ways where they make say me it kind of broke with the morning time. I deal with the struggle, some move within our side. We don't know who side will go picking them. We do for here all brother they do for Salva nowhere they run. They do my house almost around in 10. Now there's scatter house. I don't know side I will take them in and go. What I mean they will go back, go there, go Bamina, I'll edit carry them. More go there, go Bamina. You go and see what it happen.
Yeah, na Bojongo. And the zone set. The big problem here with one man, they call him Mr. Kandem Jeremy. Since we don't be fair for 8 years, so we don't come to the land, 17 acres of land, my land. So we don't be for court for 8 years. We don't win, suspend the land title. So now we don't be for 8 years for court. We don't win, suspend the land title. Since Thursday, it can't start bring gendarme, then they never bring no document for both. No, nothing like a paper. Nothing like paper. So he only come in and say we for they come in and say we. So he don't come this morning time. Since 5 o'clock, he don't come. And now we don't start broke. This long story building there. So we people are the same. We beg the government, we beg the chief of Bojongo. Cameroonians them. The world. They don't talk to me people and put down arms. They don't put them down. One come, they can set you. They don't come back again for me. Wait till they want us to move do. Who said they want us to move go? We go back to Bamenda. We go back to Southwest. We move do out. The government talk more here. If not so the justice is show. We are waiting for the justice. And justice never reign. It never yet pronounced, but it don't execute. So we beg more than 1,000 houses they did. 1,000 families they live inside the place. So now Caterpillar already broke. I'm not in a council. You don't know which way they happen. You don't know whether the law for this council and the law will don't follow up on a different law. More than 1,000 families where they want to put them outside. They want to stand up outside for Bonaberi here, for Bojongo, and Beji zone set. After they will do, a very vast land.
Okay, unfortunate situation happening out here in Douala, Cameroon's economic capital. To discuss on these topics with us this evening, Barrister Benjamin Eno. He is the president of the Fako Lawyers Association. President Boyster, welcome.
Thank you very much.
All the way from the southwest region. How did you live?
Well, it's not usually very easy, but we've somehow found our way.
Okay. We are grateful you are there. Equally, Mr. Valentine Kmer is also here. He is a member of the Fako Lawyers Association and also a militant of the Social Democratic Front. Good evening and welcome.
Good evening, Leonard. I'm the financial secretary of the Fako Lawyers Association.
Okay.
So a member of the executive.
Okay.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, you left Tico in good shape?
Yeah, we left Tico and we went through the hustle and bustle in Douala, and we saw the aftermath of the floods around the place, and it's not quite a happy sight to see.
Also with us is Tamai Jarvis. Good evening, Jarvis, and welcome.
Good evening, you. Good evening to President of the Republic. I always like to extend my greetings to him because I know he has people who are watching us and taking down note. I want to say good evening to my brothers and sisters in the most trouble-hit area in the north and southwest region, and of course to the peace-loving people of Moya, and why not in my village, Uwe village. Okay,
we are going to be coming back to this incident. It's our last talking point. We start with this press release of the Fako Lawyers Association FACLA meeting on Wednesday, the 19th day of August in Limbe, evaluated of the recent decision of the Higher Judicial Council appointing magistrates all over the Republic of Cameroon in general and Fako division in particular. What caused this meeting, President?
Well, as the preamble of the press release states, the meeting was called because of the situation in the southwest and particularly in Fako division. We were really surprised at the appointments. From the beginning of this crisis, which is now rocking the country, we had as a key demand the fact that our courts were populated with civil law trained magistrates who are not versed in the common law. And so we had asked that these personnel, we are not interested in the individual. It is the fact that they are not trained in the common law tenets. They should be removed from our courts and replaced by our common law trained magistrates. And for 3 years now, the Higher Judicial Council did not sit. We were a little bit patient. When they did sit, we discovered that not only were some of these magistrates transferred out of this, but in Fako division in particular, at least 3 of them are manning key positions in Fako division. That's not the case in the northwest. That's not the case in the other parts of the southwest region. There you can find 1 or 2 dotted civil servants, but in Fako division, 3 key positions: the Procurator General of the southwest region, the State Council of Limbe, the State Council of Tico. They are French speaking. Before these appointments came, we had only the State Council of Tico and the Procurator General who were French speaking civil law trained magistrates. Now they have added. So instead of reducing, we are finding a situation where we are moving. And if you consider that the courts that are functional are Buya, Limbe, and Tico, you would readily understand why we think that we are to be frustrated. So we had this meeting to look at the situation and to evaluate the situation and to determine what are the next steps to engage in.
And now, in consequence, therefore, FACLA resolved as follows. I want us to look at the resolutions after you people met in Limbe on the 19th of August. You say deplore in very strong, unequivocal and unapologetic terms the continuous appointment of French-speaking non-common law trained magistrates in the judiciary in Fako division and call for their immediate replacement. How possible is this when we know that replacements are done? How possible is this when we know that replacements follow a procedure like what happened in Yaoundé before these appointments were done?
Yeah, I think it is quite feasible because here we're talking about magistrates of the legal department. We're not talking about magistrates of the bench. I know the legal department falls directly under the how do you call it, under the Minister of Justice. The Minister of Justice directly mans the legal department. I know the Procureur General is the representative of the Minister of Justice. So that can be done without the Higher Judicial Council taking the pains to sit. I think that has been done in the past. I remember in the Northwest, one Procureur General was redeployed to the Adamawa, and a common law trained magistrate, I'm talking of Lord Justice J. Albert, moved to the Northwest. So it's quite feasible. I don't think there is any encumbrance, legally speaking.
Okay. Perhaps I should just say that besides the fact that they can do it directly, if it necessitates the Higher Judicial Council meeting to solve a problem that is pertinent, why not? We are in a situation where it is about justice. It's something which is intrinsic in bringing about peace in our region. It's so serious that even the Higher Judicial Council can sit over that issue. So it's not it's not something from the skies. We think that our people cannot be served by people who are not trained and who do not imbibe the culture of the common law.
Okay.
We are only making things a little bit worse.
Okay, Tamai Jarvis, how do we understand that this is where this whole struggle started, and that even 4 years down the road, we still find appointed civil law magistrates in courts in the southwestern region?
I laughed when you asked that, because it takes me to a popular interview I listened to my most animated minister, Paul Atang, and he said some of those lawyers have hidden agenda and that they have collected huge sums of money to want to destabilize Cameroon. That was in 2016. And when I look at this kind of situation again, the lawyers are still coming forward to say they want justice. That is common law be respected, and common law magistrate be sent to their respective areas. It still is giving me that understanding that the government, as of now, is still not looking at the factor, the immediate cause and the remote cause of how to resolve this crisis as of the ongoing crisis. Because under normal circumstances, this is something which they should have thought of, to understand that, okay, in 2016, the lawyers came out demanding this, and they demanded A, and we did B. It resulted into a full-blown armed conflict. To mitigate these circumstances, therefore, we should not repeat the errors we did that pushed them to a position where a consortium was formed and eventually things fell apart. But it's taking us back to the same system where we say egoism, where people bring forth their ego, feeling like they must establish their authority irrespective of what we say. And this, to me, is not an aspect where people prove that they love Cameroon, because the common law system and the lawyers who started this crisis, from when they started till it moved to consortium, from consortium ban and people arrested, and now where we are today, they were not just fighting that it should be done on an aspect that would just help just lawyers, but it's for the common Anglophone in Kikaikilaiki, the common Anglophone in Gokitunja, in Agokunjaman, the common Anglophone in Bova, the common Anglophone in Widikum. So they looked at the general perspective, and they are looking at the fact that we still protect the territorial integrity of Cameroon in its diversity and in its bijural and bicultural, which of course, if we want the united Cameroon, we should give each individual, each region, or each particular ethnic group a chance to be represented based on how they feel best respect the rights of the common man. They said justice delayed is justice denied. And we are seeing a second wave. It's like a coronavirus with a second wave, because this action is catapulting a second wave, giving those boys in the bushes reason to say, did we not tell you that these people will act like this will act like this? So it's time for the government to sit and re-evaluate that decision. Like Barrister said, that it's not a decision that needs a higher judicial council. They can go directly, as they did when they redeployed teachers. I think in the fallout from the what we had the various consortium. We had there were two interministerial committees. We had one for the lawyers and one for the teachers, and there were a few redeployments that were made. So I think they can go back to that tenet. But to me, the government needs to be more serious than ever before. If you want unity of Cameroon, the issue that the lawyers fought for in 2016, you are still repeating those same, not repeating, in fact, aggravating the same issues. You are telling us, you are telling people that there's reason that people should not believe in you.
I'm sure the numbers have reduced them, but your second resolution says that that you decry the continuous and almost exclusive use of the French language in the police stations and gendarmerie brigades, and most especially in the military tribunal in Boya, where English-speaking citizens are tried daily. All of this in total violation of international human rights conventions and treaties duly ratified by Cameroon, including the recommendations contained in Communication 266/2003 of the African Commission on Human and People's Rights. Now, how do we understand this? Because when I read what Ashunyenti, one of our colleagues, wrote, he says that in this core, what they respect is the uniform code.
Well, I think that Dr. Ash Nyenti has a right to his opinion, and that's what I consider what he has said. It's just an opinion,
okay,
which any other person can make. But the truth about it is that it is immaterial whether they train people in the same school.
Mm-hmm.
If you go to ENAM, they have a common law section and they have the civil law section. It is immaterial. What we want and what we think is correct for the justice of our people is that those charged should have the common law culture. They should be able to understand that you are an innocent until you are proven guilty.
Mm-hmm.
Justice should be rendered in the language in which they understand. When you go to the military tribunal, it's basically French, and there are no translators. And if you insist on a translator, they will look for somebody and you say you should pay. What type of justice is that? If you go to all the... Let me give you an example.
Okay.
The Legion Commander is French. The Commissioner of Judicial Police is French speaking. This National Security is French speaking. The
21st motorized
is French speaking. The Procureur General is French speaking. The State Council of Limbe is French speaking. If you go to all the commissariats and all the brigades, almost all of them are manned by francophones. So how do you administer justice to a people in a foreign language? How many translators do you find in the brigade, gendarmerie brigades? How many do you find at the PG's office? Those are the problems. They are practical problems that touch and concern us every day. So if you look at those problems that are already there, and you take somebody who does not almost understand the common law system and put at the head, the reasoning is one-sided.
Mm-hmm.
So we are saying that it is in the collective interest of Cameroonians to have justice administered in a manner that is not only done, but that everybody will see that it is done. Because we cannot be in our region and we are suffering. What is the explanation that the justice system in the military tribunals is basically French? What is the explanation? That Cameroon is no longer bilingual? Is that what obtains in Boya and the other areas, Yaoundé and everywhere? But we have French here. And it is not because other regions have not complained that we in Fako should not complain. We think that we have the interests of the people at heart, and it is our duty to complain and ask government to correct these ills.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
It is so important to us.
Okay. Good evening, New Koni, and to you, Dr. Ako John Ako, SMO. So, good evening to you, David Chamba, Tabot Rapper. Good evening to you, Wemba Paul, and to you, Egben Chong. We say good evening to everybody watching us via social media, especially to you guys watching us from Nyasoso. Special greetings to the fan club out there, to you watching us from Mile 16. Good evening. Now, what is peculiar with Fako? Because what is happening actually in the northwest, across the northwest, it is almost the state councils and magistrates are of a common law background in the southwest region also, but for Fako. Do you think there is something against you guys working in Fako?
We would not know. I don't think I'm not an astrologian to know. I don't know, but we are concerned about our backyard. So the issue of justice, the administration of justice, we find that there is a major problem in Fako. Just as the president said, you see, a criminal matter begins at the level of the recording of statements. When you find a judicial police officer, be him a gendarme or a policeman, who has no knowledge about the English language, and he has a witness before him or a suspect who is basically English speaking, and he forces him to, he uses duress to extort statements from him in a language that he does not understand, and at the end of the day, he's forced to sign that statement being his. That statement haunts him throughout the trial. And very often in court they say, but you signed here, is this not your statement? Meanwhile, you discover that the statement was somehow thwarted, there was some misunderstanding. A major miscarriage of justice can be occasioned throughout the chain. So that's why in that press release, we insisted that the judicial police officers, all the members of the rung of the ladder as far as prosecution is concerned, should have a common law background. And we know our juries on the other side of the Mungo, that training is inquisitorial. This issue of presumption of innocence is alien to them. It is not in their DNA. They are not prosecutors per se. It is the way they operate. In fact, some of them are even persecutors. So we find that is the main issue, and a society where justice is not administered properly has problems. And we, being stakeholders in the justice machine, we cannot fold our arms and see things go wrong. And their training, they call us auxiliary de justice, what they call auxiliary of the justice system. We are not auxiliary de justice. We are ministers in the temple of justice. We have a big role to play. We are not just auxiliaries. You see? So that is the problem between the two systems. There are two systems, and this system was supposed to be the beauty of this country. I think it's the only country in the third world where you have a bijural system, you have two languages, two educational subsystems in one country. But we are instead using it as something like a curse, a political weapon, assimilation and things like that. That's why we are decrying. We have been decrying since 10 years ago when the common law society met in Bamenda. We have been ringing the bell up till 2016, where things have gone the way it is today.
Are you concerned, President, that Fako is chosen to host civil law magistrates?
Of course,
isn't it also because you guys maybe are somehow stubborn, problematic? They say they have to send the real guys to work with you people.
Well, I can't say decipher their intention, but if that is what they think, then that's where the problem begins. It means they are treating us as some other special citizens who are not supposed to be rendered justice in the manner in which they are supposed to receive it. I think that whatever interest people have in Fako division is not our business.
Okay.
What we are interested is that everything should be done to ensure that justice is not only done but it should be done. There should be due process. There should be the right people to man the institutions that we need. Let me remind you that we said that during the major national dialogue, it was said that the common law and the civil law must coexist, and we administer common law. How do you want to continue to entrench common law by bringing people who are civil law trained to entrench common law? How possible is that? This is the first opportunity they have to demonstrate the good faith of what was discussed at the major national dialogue. And we must make our voices heard, because if we do not, they will say one day that we acquiesce. We cannot acquiesce. I think that whoever administers the Fako division in politics, that's not our business. Okay. Our business is justice.
Now, the major national dialogue that took place last year, October, in Yaoundé, amongst other things, sought to have a complete replacement, or they agreed, I'm sure, to replace civil law magistrates with common law. Can we, from what is happening in Fako, understand that there are some persons who have a complete disregard to some of the national policies?
It's not just the issue of there are some, it's a system. When you put some, it's like we are wanting to paint a particular...
If something may be agreed on in Yaoundé, and then some people for...
Yes. It's a system. I don't want to put it some, like maybe we can actually, we are pick that, okay, it's Mr. A and Mr. B. It's a system. Because you cannot imagine that the MND, that's the Major National Dialogue, even before the MND, we had the interministerial committee with the lawyers, and there were resolutions made, proposals made, and before then we had series of proposals made by the lawyers in good faith that, okay, we want a united Cameroon under the beauty of the common law and the civil law coexist. Each of this system operate at their different level to respect the specificity, cultural nature of their people in such a way that the people can best understand. You and I, we are journalists. Imagine you are sent to Bova to go and conduct an interview for a grandma who cannot speak English or Pidgin, and you are supposed to get that interview done, and you are supposed to represent the wealth of that grandma. How will you conduct that interview to come and tell the people in Douala that this is what she is saying? If you must talk to that grandma, you must talk to a language or go with someone who best understand what she's saying and who understand what you are saying to interpret for her. And that's the same thing that the lawyers are saying here. In 2019, when the Major National Dialogue came to existence, many Cameroonians, myself, we were in Yaoundé together. I thought that, okay, this is a good opportunity to turn the hands of time to get lawyers satisfied, get teachers satisfied. When you get lawyers and teachers satisfied, you have automatically get the common man satisfied, because they are not coming, they are taking the position of the common man. But unfortunately, what do we see? We now see something like some kind of like struggling to create a divide between Fako and those from the Anglophone region, Northwest region, like struggling to hit their head, bring them on disunity, so that, okay, it's only Fako that's complaining, Northwest is not complaining. You see, it's because of these people are highly favored, and this is the system that this how the system has been operating on divide and struggling to get people who want to get united on division. And it's common, you ask a question to the two barristers that why is it that it's only Fako? Does it mean that Fako is that stubborn? No, we all know how the cat is. Xenophobic nature has been transformed into a different scenario where they feel like, okay, let's get this done here, let's not get this done here. When these people come to complain, party A will say, but these are the same people in Northwest, and the other party will say, but Northwest is highly favored. This is it. Imagine the number of people being arrested. I've been on numerous occasions where we've been asked to present ourselves, our identification cards, especially when you're using the road to Boya. On numerous occasions, when they meet you, I think, and in one of the checkpoints, we stopped and they asked ID card. The way they asked it, I was expecting Presente Vocat National, which I would just present. But the way I asked it, I was confused. I thought maybe that French was too high for me. And I asked, please, sir, what do you say? The guy started shouting at me. I said, sorry, I was just asking because I was expecting Presente. At least I know that one. That one is simple. But when we look at what is happening now, especially after the Major National Dialogue till now, I will tell you that it's a system. It's not just some people. You think that the system is working hard to meet their agenda until they get... Look at this system. It's manned by some people who continuously are moving together, and they are killing down the anxiety of the youth.
Barrister Benjamin, if your communique states that you condemn the recurrent abuses meted out on lawyers daily as they strive to defend the now almost completely ensnared citizens. Many persons will not understand.
What it means. You see, I'll just take the last incident. A lawyer, Barrister Ayukutang Nkongo, came to investigate a problem. His client's daughter had died, had been shot to death when they were doing snail farming behind the house with torches and buckets. And there were three of them, three children, 17 and between 17 and 16 years, 16 and 17 years old. And the girl died. Besem Blandin, he died. And the other two boys were wounded. One of these boys was called Elijah, was said to be in hospital in Limbe. After discussing with his clients, and I haven't had the information, they informed him that one of the victims is in Limbe. The lawyer goes down to Limbe to try to investigate, to find out the facts as they are, to find out what these children were doing outside when this little girl was shot. He gets to the hospital, meets the gendarme officers, introduces himself, and they allow him to go and talk to the victim. After discussing for some time with the victim, he took his phone and took a photograph of the victim. The gendarme officers came and said he didn't have to take a photograph and that he didn't have to come there with his phone, and so they wanted to seize his phone, and he refused. They said, okay, he must delete the images. He deleted. They asked him to move out. He said, no, this is a hospital and I have not finished my conversation. The next thing they heard was that the commander came and took him away and detained him for 48 hours. That type of behavior can only come from people who don't understand the importance of a lawyer. People who think that once you are accused, you are a victim. You are already a convict. A lawyer who is in the course of doing his job is arrested and detained. And for 2 days, lawyers, more than close to 100 lawyers came there pleading that give us this lawyer on bail, we are ready to sign. And it became something else. So, Ayokotang's case is just to show you how lawyers are tormented on a daily basis. How lawyers are not welcomed in this gendarmerie and police institutions. We sit there every day, and when they tell you that you have to go to gendarmes, even you, the lawyer, you start doing a novena. Yes.
You guys are also scared?
No, you are going there for a hurdle because you can end up being in the cell. That is how serious it is. So, we cannot sit quiet in the face of such injustice. We cannot do our jobs the way we are supposed to do them. We cannot be in a country where we are supposed to be those who protect society and we become victims. And I can assure you that the Bar Council is aware, taking steps towards trying to resolve this type of problems. Every day we have these problems.
Yes, but after this release, practically speaking, what is what is Fako doing to reverse the situation in Fako? Precisely.
No, we are assessing the situation on the ground, and we shall leave no stone unturned. My friend on the other, Jarvis, he talked about the respect of the Criminal Procedure Code or something. In fact, the Criminal Procedure Code has made it clear that anybody who appears before a judicial police officer has the right to be assisted by a lawyer. That is what the law says. But in fact, on the ground, lawyers are considered there to be people come to disturb them doing their job. Lawyers in the police and the gendarmes are considered as a nuisance because they don't want anybody who can come and enlighten the suspect or the witness about his rights. As I said earlier, they are just persecutors. And the case of Ayukotang has become habitual all over the place. So that is, and there has been an outcry. So we shall not rest until this trend is reversed.
Are you saying that lawyers in Fako precisely are being targeted? You are hated. There is no collaboration between you and law enforcement officials?
We are Fakla. We can only speak for Fakla.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. For Fako.
But it has been happening elsewhere because there was a colleague in Yaoundé, Amungwa, was beaten almost at the point of death by gendarmes. So it is a national issue, and that's why the Bar Council has taken it up. The Bar Council has been leaving no stone unturned, trying to liaise with the powers that be, so that these cases should be arrested.
The Bar Council is working on the fact that you guys are consistently being targeted, or on the issue of the appointment of civil law magistrates in.
No, we're talking about we're talking about this issue of us being targeted when in the course of doing our job. It is the Bar Council's worry also, because it happens in other parts of the country.
Yes, but the Bar Council, I'm sure the Bar Council is also aware of the problems that Cameroon is in today because of the worries you raised.
Of course,
yes,
the Bar Council is aware because my president is a member of the Bar Council.
But what has the Bar Council done since the appointment of the magistrates in Fako?
Well, since the appointment of magistrates in Fako, in effect, the Bar Council has not met because we were out trying to swearing in of lawyers all over the country. But I am sure that with the incident that occurred in Buea and this press release, it will ignite more energy into the Bar Council looking into these problems, because it's a pertinent problem. And you remember that early this year, the Bar Council lawyers suspended practice for a week because of all these problems. And a committee was formed between the ministry and the Bar Association, Ministry of Justice and the Bar Association, to try to look into the problems that lawyers face. The working group is still working on it, and I'm sure that sooner than later there will be a white paper or something which will help us to chart the way forward. So that's how far the Bar Council is going. But pending that, we cannot die because we are waiting for the ministry to. We in Fako have a right to protect ourselves. And that's why we are crying and shouting and to the top of our voices for everybody to hear and to know that even those who are oppressing us should know that what they are doing is not correct and may change their ways.
Okay.
I think the president raised a serious issue, because when we look at the point of arrest, especially in the trouble hit area, which is why they are advocating for common law, you see that before a suspect is arrested, you always hear the police tell you, you are under arrest. You have a right to remain silent. For anything you say or do shall be used as an evidence against you in the court of law. You have a right to a lawyer. If you don't have one, the state will provide you one. That is how it's supposed to be. That's they will call policy and procedure for arrest of a suspect. But in most circumstances, over 80%, you just see, if you're and before we could know, first you are in an unknown detention facility. That was the first case, and second, so your families are being called that, hey, someone started negotiating for your release. That I know someone who is connected to where that person has been taken to, you can give so and so money, and when a lawyer intervenes into an issue, if I see. So you start getting, these are the realities. Let's be honest. These are the realities. And if the Fako lawyers are coming back, remember it started with Fako, if people who are familiar with this crisis, and when we don't know the next division, lawyers that may pick up and say, okay, yes, it's true. So I think that the authorities who are listening now, I know they are listening, I know they are recording, I know what I know for sure is that they are following us. They should understand that the common man whom they want to protect in northwest region, in Ekona, in Mamu, in Kwakwa, meet this common law. Because you cannot expect someone who operates in a pure pidgin language or pure pidgin, and you expect that person who feel like his right is being marginalized to still answer question in a French language. Is what there's what we call, I may not be a lawyer, but I'm minor in law. It's what we call mitigation and aggravation circumstances. And when these circumstances where you send a French-speaking magistrate or a French-speaking military officer to a purely pidgin, to a pure pidgin area to get that person arrested, like the war called Kade and the rest, sometimes to me it doesn't help the situation.
What I wanted you to react on has to do with what the Fcfa president said, that they are the ones who are supposed to be protecting persons, but seemingly they themselves are becoming targets.
It's because of the economy of war. It comes with the economy of war. If I am a law enforcement officer, I let a lawyer come into a suspect, it kills my negotiation power. The economy of war. We are seeing that in northern southwest region. This is they are. Ask all those who have been arrested. Their family always receive a call from certain someone who knows someone where they have been arrested. And if the lawyer comes in, that economy of war is no longer there. What gives you the bargaining power? So you use your power that you have as a law enforcement officer to get the economy of war.
Okay.
So it's just an economy of war. Yeah. The lawyers will tell you that in most circumstances, when they get involved, money, those enforcement officers don't have money. They don't receive money. So to receive this money, check the lawyers off and put intimidation. The family feel the pressure and give the money.
Yes, President, you are calling on all lawyers to be vigilant and ready to fight against any form of intimidation and or threats from those in authority who have made it their mantra to settle scores or subdue lawyers to continue to perpetuate their subjugation of the population of Fako division. They should be on their guard. What do you expect them to be doing?
Well, let me say that that particular clause in the resolution was inserted there because in the course of our discussions and our findings, you will readily understand that some of those who have been appointed are afraid that we want to fight them. We're not fighting people. We want the law to be respected. We want the justice to be done. And some of them are already sending out threats. Well, we hope that you people will succeed, because if you don't succeed, to us it doesn't really matter. Lawyers will never be intimidated. But it is a place of the association to let every lawyer know that don't sit quiet. When this, don't compromise. The greatest weapon the lawyer has is his independence. If a lawyer stops being independent, he is no longer fit to be called a lawyer. And so you will face threats. You will face people who try to intimidate you. Please report these cases to us. That's what the essence of that particular article. To tell us that we are now at war. And to go further, in my capacity as the president, we have set up a committee to look at the problems that we are facing in the course of practice. And we are going to publish it with details of the vices that are taking place. Because we cannot sit quiet because we want to have friends in the judiciary. These problems might not be caused by those people, but because they are there, they keep on perpetrating the injustice and internalizing it. So lawyers everywhere are called upon to report these things, and will make the best use of it.
Okay, you want them to report such cases only within the judiciary? Would you not also ask the population in their respective workplaces to also report?
Well, you readily understand that what we are doing is we are trying, in that particular article, we are trying to protect our lawyers, our colleagues, because we are being intimidated. If you come and they keep you outside for 3 hours without attending to you, it's a form of intimidation to discourage you. If you come, you want to see a state council and ask you to fill a form. It's a way of telling you that you are not worth anything. If people prefer to negotiate with their clients rather than have you sit there and insist on their rights, it is some sort of intimidation.
Okay.
So we are talking to our clients that we all have to put our hands on deck and to protect our communities. Everybody has to work. So all lawyers should be awake.
All lawyers should be awake. Barrister Valentine, you also are calling on the government, the national and international community, and human rights organizations to henceforth focus on the attention on the plight of lawyers in this division, that is Fako division as a whole, and the region as a whole, as you strive to defend the rights of our practically entrapped citizens. Are you calling on the government and other instances to protect you people?
Yeah, you
need protection.
We need protection, and we badly need protection. And the world is a global village. It's globalization. I'm sure this program, there are people following it all over the world.
Yeah.
So we don't think that Fako is a cocoon where you can hide there and do funny things and get away with it. So we're just ringing the bell that anything you do, the world is put on notice. So I think there's nothing more to it than that, and that injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. So that is just all about it, that we shall make it known. We shall not continue to suffer in silence. Silence in the face of oppression is criminal. When you are oppressed and you remain silent, it means you are aiding and abetting more oppression. So we shall not remain silent in the face of any violation.
You're calling on the government to amend the law creating the Higher Judicial Council, not only to include an equal number of Anglophones and Francophones, but also in conformity with the recommendations contained in Communication 266/2003 of the African Commission on Human and People's Rights, and to also include the representation of the Cameroon Bar Association. You think there is something missing at that level?
It is terrible that people have nothing, they have no knowledge of the justice system. The other day I listened and I followed a member of parliament who is a member of the Higher Judicial Council. She or he was oblivious of the law that creates that council. She was even oblivious of her competence, her domain of competence. She didn't even know what the council was all about. And we are major stakeholders in the justice system. It's abhorrent that we are not members of that council. We know the magistrates on the ground. That's why some decisions of the council, they take us aback. So it's but normal that lawyers, who are major players in the justice system, be members of the Higher Judicial Council. For the council to come out with meaningful decisions concerning lawyers. So it's rather unfortunate that we have been sidelined and that we badly need that law to be amended so that we, lawyers and maybe some other judicial professions, to a lesser extent, bailiffs and notaries of notaire or the other side of the moon, will be members as well. I think they will be better. They will do a better job than some MPs and some people from the Prime Minister's office who are just civil servants. They just go there and receive their PGMs and go out. The whole job is done by maybe the Vice President and his collaborators and the secretary, the permanent secretary of the Higher Judicial Council, who happens to be a magistrate.
Okay.
Yes, I think that that particular clause, what inspired us was the fact that Cameroon is a bi-jural system, and you cannot have a situation whereby there are 11 members of the Higher Judicial Council, and only one is Anglophone. 11. What is the explanation for that? What is the rationale for that? Out of 11 people in the Higher Judicial Council, only one is an Anglophone. It is not only unfair, but you can say that it is diabolic. Because if you do not have sufficient members of the Anglophone community in the Higher Judicial Council, the perspective of the common law will not be properly represented. So that is why we are saying that the Higher Judicial Council should have equal numbers, because there are basically two judicial systems, civil law and common law. How can 11 people, out of 11 people, 10 are of the civil law? Means that from the beginning, even if they wanted to vote, it's already clear where the vote will tilt.
It's already clear.
So secondly, we said that the Communication 266 of the 2003 of the African Commission on Human Rights, Human and People's Rights, stated that the judiciary is a power that cannot be under the executive. And that members of the executive have no business to do in the judiciary. And it means that if you are the head of state, you are not supposed to be there. That is what it means. And now people will say, oh, that where the law says that is where the problems begins. The law should be changed. The law should be changed to ensure that the judiciary is a power. How can one person in a different arm of justice be the guarantor of the independence of another power?
Okay, but you people are very worried about the appointment of these three officials in Fako division. Some persons are asking or are concluding, asking questions why you would want to worry when we have common law magistrates acting in some of these French-speaking regions. They're working there.
Go and ask those people who are working there where they would prefer to work. And all of them will tell you that they would prefer to work in the Southwest region. And in any case, we didn't send them there. They don't need to be there. What we're interested in is that we should not be oppressed. If the government decides to go and oppress some other people, those people should have a right to rise up. And that's why we are rising up. That cannot be a pretext to impose on us people who have a different culture, a different way of life, a different perception of justice.
Okay, Tamai Jarvis, how do you feel listening to lawyers and also understanding that there are mothers and fathers who are looking up to these lawyers to always defend them, also present so many worries that they are facing with respect to either officials of the judiciary or the executive?
Mr. Kum, I think from my civic days from primary school, I was told that we have the executive, the judiciary, and we also have the legislative arm. And when I moved over to a higher level of education, where at the level of university, there was something we did which is civics and ethics. And I was still reminded at that level that there's what we call the judiciary, the executive, and the legislative, and that the judiciary is supposed to be an independent arm of the government, and that is the police of the nation, and they ensure that laws are respected and well interpreted to people, such that the police are enforcers of these laws according to how we're told. But when we look at the changing dynamics, I think that we have decided to let politics play our judicial system, that let the judicial system play the politics that we need. Because when I say politics is playing our judicial system, is in such a way that some few people who feel privileged to be in the system feel like if we allow the system to go from a normal way, we will not benefit. But if we allow the system to go as it is now, we'll benefit. And when you look at the age range as far as those calling the shot is concerned, they are about 70, 80. And when you look at those advocating for a return of normalcy in terms of bicultural Nigeria, it should be around between 29 to 45, 50. And you ask yourself, why this different gap? Is simply because of the economy of interest. Because we have lived in a system where people have moved from patriotism to personalism, where people feel like it's more of a person than a patriot. Now, a patriot, a Cameroon patriot, is someone who defends the system irrespective of whether it's bad or good. That is a patriot. But whereas the definition of patriot is someone who protects the right of an innocent person, the right of a common man to see that that person enjoys the benevolent as enshrined in the constitution of their country. And oftentimes we don't see this happen. I've seen seen cases like there was this case. I've been following the case from when the case was in court until now. I witnessed the proceeding, especially the last day that the case was finally thrown out of court. I worked for the lawyers because I asked one of the lawyers, Barrister Wule, just said, don't tell your friends to do law. Look at based on how the case was ongoing. It tells that kid that, hey, this is Cameroon. Lawyers are supposed to be respected. That's why we call them learned colleague. But in Cameroon, especially in Anglophone system, it's kind of different because that presumption of guilty takes precedent, which makes the lawyers now find it difficult to operate. Because normally, when you go to justice or equity, you are going on a level field where no one feel like you are innocent until guilty, right? But when you go to a system where you are guilty on the innocent, it gives that lawyer a perspective to not easily defend the client based on the intimidation role. Let me give you an example, based on what you are asking, your question as to when we listen to this, what can we draw from this? We as journalists, we feel like our rights are not protected in future because what if you are arrested? Who defends you? It is a lawyer. And what you will be judged on, you are judged on your Anglophone culture. Before you are judged on the fact that if you are in Boya, there's what called the culture of Boya, the system of Bakure man. If a case concerns a Bakure tradition, if that case enters the court, how is that case judged? That case is judged based on the fact that first they have to go to the cultural nature of Bakure people. What does the culture say, and who represents the common law? But in the system where you bring a civil law, that look at this perspective look at it from a different scenario. It tells you pictures that, hey, people's culture will be desecrated and will not be respected, and people will not have fair judgment. So to me, it's time good enough for the authorities who always watch us, who are listening to us, who are recording us, to understand that justice delayed is justice denied. Nobody thought that 2016 will amalgamate into a full-blown armed conflict. And they are still not thinking that the lawyers, Fako lawyers, they are raising an issue. That is a second wave of what I consider the ongoing crisis.
Okay, President, since you people were at the forefront of this Anglophone crisis, you started it when you raised worries to Yaoundé. We are 4 years down the road, though today we are talking of something else, Anglophone crisis, and not more your worries. Has something changed with the way lawyers are treated with respect to the worries expressed?
So if you ask the common man outside, who is in government, who listens to your public media, they will tell you that, oh, they have done this. Nothing has changed in intrinsic value. Nothing. We are almost where we were in 2016. Because the things that we complained of in 2016, none has been done. If in 2020, in August 2020, we are still complaining about magistrates of the civil law extraction, you will understand. Do we have a law school? We do not have. Even in the Supreme Court, where they say there is a section of the common law, why is it a section? It's supposed to be, the Supreme Court is supposed to be broken into two parts: the common law and the civil law. And they keep on saying these things every day. But nothing in real terms has changed. And that is what frustrates the lawyers so much every day. All what they try to do is some peripheral things that to make believe. There is no good faith in trying to make things change for good. Look at the magistrates. Look at the special recruitments that were done for magistrates to study common law.
Yeah, but formally it was not there.
Yes, it wasn't there.
Nothing has changed. At least they are
no,
there.
But I just want to show you that if you look at the names, the first batch that came out, there were 50 names. There were 23 francophones. What is that? It's everything. We are living in this country as if we are parasites.
But there is a common law bench at the level of the Supreme Court.
There is no bench. It is a section.
Okay.
What it means is that there is the judicial bench and you have a common law bench. We are supposed to be which means that when matters are brought there, for example, the criminal law, there is a criminal law section. There it is not partitioned into two. What we expect that should happen is that the Supreme Court should be split into two.
Okay.
We have the civil law and the common law. And of course, why not? Why don't you put it in Boya? Why should we have to go to Yaoundé for the Supreme Court? And then you will now come to understand that, okay, all matters from the common law section, areas of this country will be taken to the apex court.
In Yaoundé?
In Yaoundé. I mean, I'm saying that they will be taken to the Supreme Court, meaning criminal, civil, administrative, and everything. But what they have just done is a civil, well, it's a section of the common law, and that relates only to civil matters. When it is a labor matter, the section social. When it is criminal matter, it goes to the criminal section.
But at least we've seen the translation of the Ohada laws.
That's another problem. That is another problem. Translation of Ohada. What part of what laws were translated? What was translated were laws that have been repealed. Those are things which people do not know. There are laws that have been repealed, that were translated. It just means that the translation had been given, the orders had been placed, but somebody was negligent. And when this crisis came up, they brought the translations. But those are texts that had been repealed.
Okay. But
and even if it was, translation is not a favor. It's our right.
Barrister Valentine, you saw, or we all saw the way lawyers were treated out there in Boya, in Muya, and in Bomenda when they took to manifest in 2016. Do you think that you people are better respected today?
No, the answer is clear, just as the president said. Not at all. I even think the situation has worsened because some of them, they even mock us. They said you people went on strike and you came back and we are there. We're still on, as if it was some sort of a Brad affair, not knowing that our crusade is for the nation. It's not for us. It's for the common man. It's for the global society. So basically nothing has changed, and as the president said, the Supreme Court, that is the highest court of the land, is basically a civil law court. What they call the common law is not a bench, it's a section, and in that Supreme Court we have never had a first president of common law extraction. Those are the offices that matter in that court. The first president of the Supreme Court, the Procureur General, what they call the Procureur General of the court, all since 60 years down the road. There have always been civil law magistrates.
Okay.
And so there is nothing new under the sun.
Okay, I want to get this this on the 12th of May. You people issued a communique when the mayor of Mamfi was killed. You called on the government, what is it, Fakla consequently calls on the government to allow for an independent and neutral investigation of the circumstances leading to the death of the late Mayor Priestley Ojong and to bring the culprits to justice. I don't know whether there was any follow-up to this release. And this one has come to a notice that okay, when Barrister Felix Agbo was I don't know, asked not to teach again at the University of Boya, a communique was issued, and then when there was the announcement of the creation of the Limbe Port Authority, another communique was issued. Is it to what is the rapport between the creation of the Limbe Port Authority, the killing of the mayor of Mamfi? As for Barrister Felix Agbo, I would say it's is is Fako not becoming so much interested into other issues and sounding like some political association?
Well, I will I'll just answer by saying Human Rights Watch sits in London and talk about Cameroon. Once it concerns human rights, we are lawyers. It is our duty to raise our voices and add to the other voices that are condemning such brutal killings, such barbaric acts, and to ask government investigate these things, because unless we start bringing those culprits to book, these things will continue. And we cannot do it for A and forget about B. And you've seen that each time these things happen, people have to shout before government acts. So we're just adding our own voices to what transpires. With regards to Barrister Nkomo Felix, of course, you know, he was my predecessor.
Yes.
And we felt that what was done was due process was not followed. The decision was taken before the process was put in place, and we had to decry it because he was at the time a lecturer of law in the university. He was training lawyers who were going to come and join the legal profession. And the questions which he set in the exams, nobody complained about whether they were out of the syllabus. How can a question become a crime if it is within the scope of the syllabus? And in any case, due process had to be followed. We felt that we needed to raise our voices because the University of Buea is like a jewel in the hands of Anglophones. And we cannot sit back and see people trying to destroy it by sending instructions from Yaoundé for the university to operate on. That university is supposed to be an Anglo-Saxon university. And so all the tenets of the Anglo-Saxon university is supposed to be followed. And if it cannot, we have children who go to that school. We thought that we should be able to raise concerns. With regards to the Ports Authority that has been created, nobody doubts or can deny that we are where we are because of the economic malaise in which Anglophones find themselves. We are poor. We are not rich. And basically because our port authority, in Cameroon, the ports of Limbe were closed down. When the government and the SNC went to Banjul, the recommendations of the Banjul Commission said it was not correct for government to open that port. We have examples of how income and labor generating institutions have been created in West Cameroon and have been manned by people out of West Cameroon. So it was important for us at the beginning to remind them that what happened to Sonara should not happen. This port authority...
How do you remember what happened to Sonara?
Yes, I just want to elaborate that. In Sonara, 90% or more of the working workforce is not from Anglophone Cameroon. French speaking, the lingua franca in Sonara is French. Should we continue in that? Now that the port is coming, if it does come, if we do not sound these alarm bells, they will be populated more with Francophones than Anglophones. And it has the potential of creating an economic miracle in West Cameroon. So it has to be in the hands of those who man this region, who live in this region. So it is something which we need to continuously say it, so that those who take decisions in Yaoundé should be aware that we are conscious. We cannot sit quiet and wait. When they are now sit there, we come and start shouting, and everybody will say, well, it's the president's prerogative. We don't want to direct and to remind him that we should not be cheated here.
Okay, let me take some messages of those watching us, if time permits. Good evening, Mr. Kum, and to you all in the house. We love your program over here. It educates us so much, but There's a big problem in Cameroon concerning the judiciary. I don't really understand, because people working with the judiciary system are just there in favor of the government. Just if you go to the police station or gendarme, you find it difficult to express yourself, because everyone there claims to be a francophone, especially in the northwest or southwest. So since the government has decided to make Anglophone region because a hell on earth, okay. Cameroon Mohammed and friends, writing from Casablanca in Morocco. Good evening to you, Mohammed. Glad to read from you, my friend. Good evening, Mr. Liokum and Leonard Pandis. How come the chiefs of Anglophones, custodians of their cultural heritage, remain so indifferent, so that our lawyers are like orphans? Mola Fako is writing from Boya. Good evening to you, Mola. Hello, greetings to you all in the studio, especially to Barrister President Legend Basil from Germany. Just want to remind you all about Joseph Weber's speech about a cube of sugar in a basin of what I just believe that was a prophecy, and it's coming to pass. As the journalist said, who will know that 2016 will turn out like this appointment of only one English law out of 10 is still a sign of marginalization, and it's well cause, okay, it will cause more problems. Good evening to you out there in Germany. Good evening, sirs. It's really disheartening to see what lawyers were against in 2016 is repeating itself, but I believe in the Anglophone lawyers that they are going to fight against this assimilation and divide and rule. Kudos to Barrister Eno, Ben and Barrister Njenge. Valentine, they can never walk alone. From Miss Anonymous in Moyuka. Good evening to you, Miss Anonymous. Good evening to you all in the house, especially the legal luminaries. Our nation is under a totalitarian regime and is bound to violate the laws due to ignorance. Ibwa Kadel is writing from Checkpoint in Boya. This one says, I'm Anu Collins from Tico. Good evening, Mr. Liu. This issue of French language being used in a judicial court is really a big problem, which I have been a victim in several occasions. You should know that French is the only language used in military training school here in Cameroon. Where is the place of English language? Okay. Good evening, Mr. Liu. I think all the common law lawyers should stand up against this issue, and not only Fako lawyers. Ngala Gideon is writing from Bamenda. This one says, it doesn't matter who pilots an aeroplane, the main concern should be how successful the trip will be. I'm Randy Ituka from Banga Bakundu. Greetings to you all. Greetings to you too. Hello, I'm Paul Ngong from Church Street, Kumba. Greetings to all the panelists on board, especially to our lawyers in the house. This fight should not be limited only to Fako lawyers alone. The entire common law system should continue to raise against the practice. Okay, Paul, good evening to you. The high-handedness of the regime is in infiltrating the common law with civil law magistrates only speaks volumes of the ill faith of the government in redressing the grievances of the English-speaking people. Okay, Daniel is writing from Yaoundé. Luis in Limbe says, good evening, Mr. Liu and everyone in the studio. Let's find out if common law magistrates were also sent to French regions. If so, I don't see any problems. If not, the assimilation is real. Okay, that's a question I asked earlier on. Good evening, wise senior citizens. How can you explain the fact that an Anglophone uniform officer judges his fellow Anglophones in the French language just because he wants to frighten him with the language and extort coins from him? Let me remind you that French is a language commonly used when you want to corrupt your fellow compatriots. Thanks. Prince 4 is writing from Douala. Good evening, Mr. Kuman, all in the house. This is Lapana Tasha Mama writing from Cyprus. If the Fako lawyers are serious, they should block and disturb all court sessions until the Francophone magistrates are replaced. Okay, Lapana, good evening to you. Good evening, Mr. Liu. And the panelists, it is astonishing that the government of Cameroon has refused to learn from the mistakes of yesterday. Ngole Hene is writing from Limbe. Okay. Good evening to you, Barrister Nguve Williams, who is watching us from Boya. Good evening, sir. I'm from Limbe. We really want justice in this country. Okay. Now, Tamai Jarvis, my question to you has to do with how do we see these guys overcome what they are fighting for now?
Is it possible? Yeah, it's possible. I laugh based on the message someone said that it is not justified for Fako lawyers, others to rise. And it takes me back to the picture as of early 2016 of that is of September, when we were first hearing of Fakla, left, right, center, and later on Nuela entered the picture. Want to hear Manfe had entered the picture. Want to hear a consortium has been formed. Want to hear. That's how it started.
Yeah, but only that now the difference now is that the other divisions have common law.
No, let me land you. Let me land. They may have common law, but it's the same system that operates like. The same gendarmeries, the same uniform officers are still using the same languages to judge against the common Anglophone man. It's the same thing that applies whether they have it or not. First of all, having it is a good thing. Now, applicability now is another issue. The same, let me tell you, the same crisis that someone in Menka Atong is facing right now is the same way that someone in Leula Malale in down Mamu village who face in the hands of security forces. It doesn't change. And when someone says that, saying that the lawyers, how can we see, or are we sure that the lawyers can get? Yes, they can. And like as I earlier said, though I use a kind of way, what I cannot explain, but this is how it started in 2016. We started hearing of Fakla. From the later on, Noella. Later on, we started seeing alliances form. And from there, it moved on to something big. And this is what I am telling authorities who are watching us right now, that it is like a coronavirus has the first wave. It came and people took it lightly. And after that, they said confinement. These people said, no. In US, no. Let's open the economy. After a while, you see, bam, it came back again and the whole economy. Now, this is like a second wave of this crisis. Let them be careful. Because what they are doing, they are not mitigating. They are aggravating. It's like taking kerosene and putting in a burning fire. And the lawyers, let me tell you, the lawyers will not, Fako lawyers that I know very well from when I was born in Moya till now, will not give up. They are not only stubborn, but there are people who have the inculcated, unadulterated Anglophone culture in them, who believe in justice and the force of argument. And regardless of how you take them, regardless of how you push them, they said they were tired and they will go back to court. They never tired. They never got tired. And some of them stood their ground and they are still standing it today. And let me just say that authorities need to just take their counsel and say, okay, what can we do to mitigate this situation? And know we are in a country of commission. Maybe by the end of this program, a commission may be created to look into the Fako lawyer issue, which should be welcomed, and we just hope that the commission, anyway, it's okay. Something that I lack what to say here.
Okay, you like what to say. Greetings to you, Barrister John Kameni, who is watching us from the Grandmaster, who is watching us from Boya. Special greetings to you out there. And President, the Fako lawyers are engaging. Are they engaging politicians? Are they engaging senators to carry their worries also to Yaoundé? Why you also you say the Bar Council is concerned? But you also?
No, I think that before I answer that, let me just say that when something concerns the Anglophone lawyers, any part of the Anglophone community, all Anglophone lawyers are involved. What it means is that we have started to raise this problem, and some people think that it's just a problem that relates to Fako. It's going to snowball. By the time you realize it, everybody will be manifesting on this issue if things don't change. Because we know that what they're trying to do is to test the ground. And soon you'll hear people saying, but they have said it, just like one commentator wrote that only 3 cases. It's not only 3 cases, it's the 3 cases which we highlighted. And to start saying only 3 cases, what it means is that, well, 3 people can be victimized and there's no problem. there's not supposed to be one, even one, from the PG to the lowest state council to the gendarmerie officers. Those involved should be Anglophones. We have the manpower, we have the personnel. Why should they take them to a different region and send us Francophones? That is the problem. And it is a national issue, which I expect that even Francophone lawyers should be able to raise it. Is there any one Francophone lawyer which will say that it is correct that in the Higher Judicial Council only one Anglophone represents the entire Anglophone community? There's none. It's pure injustice. Now, coming back to your question. You were seeking to know.
I was asking whether you guys are also engaging local politicians.
Yes, you're seeking to know whether we
engaging with politicians. Yes.
Normally what we do, and that's one of the things which we can do, is that when we have this communiques, we send it to politicians of both regions, not only of our own
but they live in Boya, they live in Tiko and Limbe. Why not just call them and say the lawyers want to meet you and
let me tell you,
okay.
Often it's good to document these things.
Okay.
But normally it should be the other way around. Our representatives, I haven't heard that we are crying, should be able to seek our audience to find out what is the problem so that they can address it. But you know, of course, even they themselves know that they have no way to influence things. They are even happy that these things are raised by us, because everybody is trying to protect his means of survival. And but we can send these things to the widest extent that we can send, that we need to send them. Our parliamentarians, our administrators, our chiefs, we let them know what these things are. And we are in a country where everybody has become so docile, so afraid, because it's a country where people, they treat, it's like politics has become trading. So either you comply or we withdraw. It is made worse now with the chiefs because they are paying them some stipends, and so the chiefs are expected not to open their mouths and say anything that may affect the position of the powers that be. But in general, what we try to do is to extend broaden the extent of information to those who can help us to achieve the things that we expect. Now, there was a question there whether we will succeed. What I can say is that we are hopeful that this crisis will be looked into, and being genuine worries, there will be steps that are taken to mitigate. And if they do not, well, at the end of the race, we will see what happens.
Vice Valentine, these appointments in Fako division, are these some of the actions of some persons who may not want this crisis done with, doing it on purpose to keep flaming the ongoing crisis? Or it is sent there because the people of Fako badly need the civil law magistrate?
Leonard, I think I will not know, Vic. I will not know. But what I know about this government that has been on for 38 years is that the DNA of this government is that they never hit to any popular outcry, and they believe that the state is different from the people, and that the state calls the shot and the people follow. It's quite strange. It's a strange perception. And they just believe that if they do the right thing, it will seem as if they have backed down, as if they have lost face somehow. Because I don't understand. The common law trained magistrates are there in their numbers. What is difficult in redeploying them? What is difficult? And they still believe in that policy of national integration that has failed. We all know that this is a bicultural and bijural system. instead of promoting unity in diversity, if you can remember, the first institution of this country made a declaration somewhere in France that they have been trying to assimilate Anglophones, to make Anglophones look like Francophones for many years, and it has failed them. But I don't think they have thrown in the towel. I think they are still moving on, and they still believe that they're still finding some loopholes to come back in full force.
Okay. Lots of messages, Leo. If at all there will be a deep support in Limbe, the labor force will be recruited from French Cameroon. They are flooded at the Maritime University of Ghana with their children and relatives. Check this with the Ministry of Transport. Let the Anglophones keep complaining and smiling. Good evening to the Mutengene lawyers. Mr. Nembo, writing from Mutengene. Good evening to you, Mr. Nembo. Okay, Barrister Toko says, good evening, Mr. Liu and honorable members of the panel. I do admire the honesty with which the debate is tailored. Sankeng, okay, good evening to you, Barrister. This one says, Barrister Valentine, good evening. Brady Fair isn't English language. We talk of war. Placidus is writing from Limbe. Okay, thank you. Good evening. Mr. Kum, the problems of due process transcend the magistracy and go down to other actors in the justice system. Police, gendarmes, registrars. Have you been to the church offices and gendarmes offices? The working language is French everywhere. Barrister So Agbo, writing from Limbe. Good evening to you, Council. Mr. Leo, greetings to you all in the studio. I'm indeed proud to be a keen viewer of your program, sir. You have the best topics on daily basis. I admire all your panelists. Your choices are experts. God bless you. Ebontui Ekamba is writing from Yaoundé. This one says, you want English people to rule too, okay? Thank you very much. Mr. Liu, tell those lawyers to be talking and hitting the table, not... Okay, Shako is writing from Germany. Okay. Shako says you guys should be hitting the table. I don't know, but the message is going through. Good evening in the studio. The Anglophone problem is not something we should take with the left hand. NS Carl is writing from Kurt. Okay, I don't know where Kurt is. Good evening, special good evening to you, Kumfo, the Grandmaster Barrister Sichui, John Kamini. You are following up, and we're glad you participating with us. Now we have to take a short break, after which we discuss on our last topic very briefly because we are out of time. Except the barristers have something to add to what we have discussed already with respect to their press release.
No, I think that I just want to, in order to conclude this aspect, I think that just to reassure the citizens of Fako Division and the Anglophone community that the lawyers of Fako Division will not rest until justice is done to us. Things must be respected. Those who are not supposed to be part of our system have to leave. They need to leave. Because either the country is determined to move forward, or we will be turning around the same issues for the past 5 years, and we will not relent. That's what I can say in order to, as the last word on that issue, on that topic.
Okay. Yes. All Fako lawyers are committed to following what FACLA stands for.
Yeah, they are committed. It's difficult to speak after the president.
There are no blacklegs amongst you who betray?
We are in a democracy. We cannot call people blacklegs. There are various shades of opinion, and all opinion, they count. Okay. What I was just saying is that Cameroon is a blessing, yeah, on the face of the earth, and that the policy of national integration has failed woefully.
Okay.
So we should resort to unity in diversity.
Okay.
Yeah, the fact that common law trained lawyers be deployed here does not entail that we are no longer united. I think it even strengthens the unity.
Okay.
Those specificities are very important in a country like ours.
Okay. We take a short break and we discuss our second topic for tonight. Welcome back. You're watching Prime Hour on My Media Prime. We are now going to be looking at politicians. Have they helped to move Cameroon forwards, or they are rather helping to destroy the country? Just to tell our televiewers that tomorrow we are going to be looking at the outing of Professor Maurice Kamto, the national president of the CRM movement. He granted a press conference today in Yaoundé, declaring that if any elections are held in Cameroon before the resolution of the crisis in the northwest and southwest region, his movement is going to lead a giant move to oust President Paul Biya. We are going to be looking at all of that tomorrow. But today, I start with you now. When you look at politicians in Cameroon, where do you find their motivation in involving into political activities? Is it the interest of the people, or that desire to be called the big man?
There is what I define as politiconomy. Don't mind, it's not an English word. Perhaps I'll have to defend that in one of my theses. Politiconomy is another aspect where you go for politics for your pocket, not for the interest of the people, and you portray the general idea that you're fighting for the people, as we see in most political parties in Cameroon. I must say that generally they always have a broad perspective, a bigger perspective of telling the people that this is what we need to do. But factually, that's not what is happening, because most of them, as they center their policy towards their families. If you look at how even some of the political parties, the political parties are oriented, just a handful, that's just feel like the Social Democratic Front and the National Party that we have, that you can say that, okay, it's not, are not family controlled. But when you look at the other political parties, it's kind of a family kind control affair. That tells you that it's more of the economy. Leo, if you look at the just ended municipal, I want to give an example from the just ended municipal and the election as to how it was conducted. Most of these political parties, if you look at their modus operandi of their campaign, is first of all based on scheme, that is extortion and wrongful information. Example, a politician will come and tell you, you see this road, I'll tie it, and the road, if you look at the jurisdiction of who is responsible of that road is not a political decision. It's a decision from the Ministry of Public Works. A politician will come and tell you, see, I'll give you classrooms in this locality, and you and I know that classrooms are allocated by public. They are in public investment budget, and the allocation that, okay, 3 classrooms will be built in Gokitunja, 4 classrooms will be built in Bombay.
Yeah, but politicians have the powers to lobby for that to be inserted in the public investment budget.
They do have the powers, but if you look at how they put it, it's like it is their responsibility. And when they don't deliver now this responsibility, we see as failures, but which is not supposed to be the case. Look at another example is that of the CRM party. CRM party within the 2018, the just ended municipal election. They had that interest that, okay, they are coming, people looked at them as a hope of the new change. But what happened was, they did not go in for the election because of one or two things that we are hearing, which we don't want to bring to the public. Politicians in Cameroon, majority, 80% of them are there for their pockets and not for the interest of the people. If they were of the interest of the people, Anglophone crisis would have long been resolved, because how many of these politicians have come to form a synergy, coalition, that let us form a coalition to pressure the government to resolve Anglophone crisis. If the government doesn't resolve Anglophone crisis, we'll give an ultimatum. We are opposition. We should have majority of the people on our side. But how many of them have actually come together to form this coalition to say, okay, let's resolve Anglophone crisis? Today, Mr. A is looking at it from his perspective. The next day, Mr. B is looking at it from his perspective. And people are using Anglophone crisis as a means to popularize their party. Say, no, if you don't resolve Anglophone crisis, we will not do this. But they don't take the concrete action. They don't walk the walk and talk the talk. So to me, it's more of a politiconomy where they use it for their for their pocket, not for the interest of the people. If they were for the interest of the people, Anglophone crisis is a litmus test for these politicians to come together, MRC, CR, whatever other CCCs, they should come together and say, okay, let's form like a consortium of political parties and say that, yes, we want this crisis resolved, because if this crisis is resolved, the political landscape will be level-headed for everybody to participate. Look at the elections. It was not level-headed. Certain political parties had an upper edge because of the insecurity.
Okay, Sir Benjamin, let's look at your view on what politicians have been able to contribute to the growth of Cameroon. We could take an example. We have politicians at the National Assembly. What have they used the National Assembly to impact on the lives of Cameroonians?
I just want to approach it from a different angle.
Okay.
From the perspective that are politicians necessary for a country to grow?
Okay.
If for those of us who were lucky to be in adults in 1990, we would readily understand that, but for politicians, today we wouldn't have been in what seems to be a democracy, a multi-party democracy. It is because some people who rose up and tried to pressurize government and cause government to issue the liberty laws. The liberty laws, in a way, greatly liberalized the country to an extent. It is in these liberty laws that you have the Bar Association was created, the law on associations, and so on and so forth. Even censorship was dropped for you, the journalist. So in a way, the politicians have contributed in doing it. But most people, when they talk about politicians, they talk about political parties. The reason for which people create political parties is dependent upon what their aspirations. Most often you create a political party, and I think that the aim of the political party should be to conquer power for the good of your people. How have they fared? Everyone can see, for example, where the SDF is today. And we can see where the BDM is. Has there been democracy? Because when there is no democracy, like what we have in Cameroon today, in that one political party dominates every aspect of society. There is no distinction between the state and a political party. It becomes a little bit difficult. Even the politicians who are of good faith are frustrated midway, because we now have what they call in French état party. The party, the big party swallows everybody, takes all the decisions, decides what happens at a particular time, and so in Cameroon, those people you call politicians who matter are those who are in the ruling party, because they are the people
Are
who
you
take
saying that the
decisions.
opposition matters very little?
They do matter.
Some of the things you just cited were forced or pressured from the opposition camp.
Yes, that's why I say that when the politicians, to an extent, have contributed to bringing a semblance of democracy in our country. Because if the politicians and opposition politicians were not there, perhaps we would not have some of these laws. But it has degenerated into a system whereby most of those political parties that could stand for the people are dying out because of the election malpractice that have made the party in power to be too strong.
Yeah, but those who constitute the party in power are politicians themselves.
Yes.
I'm not excluding them from the description of politicians. Barrister, you are a militant of an opposition party. Have you people worked so hard to move this nation forward, or you've brought it to its knees? I'm talking across the border, not necessarily.
Yes, Leonard, what the president just said is so relevant, so important.
Okay.
We have what we call a state party. Since 1990, the road has been so difficult. We have the state party that is a totalitarian system that controls everything, even the private sector. They have everything in their hands. So they have all the means to cow you to submission. So we have politicians in this country, politicians of conviction. But at one time, you discover that you are maybe caught in a labyrinth because everything around you is hostile. They control the traditional rulers, they control the syndicates. A president who appoints everybody in the system, even right in the private sector. They have all the means, as I said, to cow you. So despite all your conviction, despite all the energy you have to move things ahead, at times you may be holding a meeting, you believe that the person next to you is your comrade, not knowing that the person is an undercover agent of the regime in place. Because they have all the finances, they have all the means. As somebody said I should not use French here. They once said, nous avons la volonté et les moyens. They have the ways and the means to get their way. So it is so difficult. So difficult. You have an election. The rigging starts right from the registration process. They control everything right to the proclamation of results. They tell an electoral code. The code says only the report sheet of Elecam counts in case of dispute. And we all know what happens. At times, after the polls, those Elecam people, they go into their offices and they change the sheets. Who have been in the Constitutional Council, who have been in the Supreme Court. At the end of the day, you see all the parties, they come up with identical sheets. Then the Elecam man whose sheets counts come with strange results. So it's very difficult to make inroads. But we will not give up. And it's difficult because that state party, they have made all the civil servants to become members of their party, whether you like it or not. If you don't join their party, they'll frustrate you.
Yes, but my question is, they also constitute politicians. They are the ones who go out for campaigns and they convince people. Are they helping to grow?
They are not politicians. They are just agents of the state party. They are civil servants.
I'm not talking about civil. I'm talking that we have politicians. Are you saying that we don't have CPDM politicians? Somebody like Senator Mbela Mokichas, are you saying he's a civil servant?
Leonard, let me just tell you something. Most of those CPDM senators, they usually meet the SDF senators in the corridors. They say this. When we're in the plenary, bring up this point because we cannot talk. Are those politicians?
For God's sake. I want to buy Barrister's point of view, and same with the president of Fako. We understand that in the 1990s, when freedom of mass communication law was launched and freedom of expression and freedom of association was due to the political move. And sadly, we've seen this political candle has died down. And this is simply because of the part of economy, the economy side of it, and the aspect of egoism, where people want to go off their personal agenda than the agenda of the general people. Sadly enough, we don't have more of politicians in Cameroon. We have more of economists in Cameroon than politicians, because if you're a nation that has politicians, as we had in the early 90s, you would have seen radical changes. Since we had pre-publication censorship, it moved to post-publication censorship in 1996. We still have post-publication censorship. And oftentimes, barristers, you will tell us when we go to court, sometimes they bring back the 1983 press law and say, you are judging it on this. Sometimes a journalist is accused of a press law, which is, they say law is not supposed to go in retrospect. But most of the time, we journalists, we are caught up within this loop. And these are things that we expect modern day politicians should be more than the 1990 politicians we had. But the sad thing is that the 1990 politicians seem to be the best politicians we've had in Cameroon. The period between 1985 to 1990, where we had that multi-party, and a lot of changes occurred in 1996, like effective decentralization, which now has been rebranded to accelerated decentralization after 20-something years. It was because of those pressures that were coming in from political parties. But today we have the multi-party, more party like church. More the party, the more the disunity, the more the chaos, and the lesser the development. We should expect more political parties, more development, and more unity. But rather, we're expecting more. We have more political parties, more disunity, more poor country as it is developing, and more what we call black leg moving left and right. So to me, the politicians are not doing their job. Instead, if they have to do their job, I'll go back again. The Anglophone crisis is a litmus test for all politicians. Most of them, like the SDF, did not actually win seat in North and Southwest region. Why? Because of the ongoing crisis. And the stronghold of SDF sometimes is more of these regions because of the ongoing crisis. The other parties could not. Maurice Kamto said they did not be because of the crisis. What is there to solve? Come together as political parties. Have a common front. Say this is what we want within this short period of time, so that the field should be level-headed to everybody, such that people should not be arrested arbitrarily. How many of these political parties have issued strong statement? I mean, come together, issue strong statement of Anglophone crisis. Common law lawyers are complaining left and right. To them, they feel like it's more of a legal issue. No, those people who are arrested are potential voters. Those who are being killed are potential voters. Are people who will vote for you in the next election. And thus, if you don't take policies that will protect them, to me, it makes no sense. We are more of economists than politicians. To me, from my honest perspective.
Okay, let me take some more messages. This one with Derek says, a good program, soft-spoken panelists. Good evening to you. Derek, watching us from Bonaberry. Good evening, Leo and other members in the crew. Politics can be constructive or destructive, but in Cameroon it is highly destructive. Our politicians have sold their consciences to the devil, perhaps for money. May God help us. I'm Charles, writing from Kumba. Leo and panelist politicians are not doing anything for the common man, rather to better their lives and that of their families, and this is so because most of them are subsets of the ruling party. The only politician who is not on personal interest is Nijon Frunzi. We all can testify that he is for the people. As for the rest, it's just self-interest. I'm Legan Basil, writing from Germany. Good evening to you, Basil. Good evening, Mr. Leo. The game is still on with the same game plan, divide and rule strategy. This time, they're trying to reduce the team of their opponents, such as the one will feel contented, thus won't find any interest in joining the fight. The system in place is ignorantly giving the children a load they won't be able to carry in the future. Okay, Tiku Felix is writing from Boya. Good evening to you, Tiku. Okay, greetings, Mr. Kum. This is Barrister Bolinji. I must commend. The topic is a great one. Thank you very much, Barrister. Good evening, Mr. Liu. I love the program, but my favorite panelists are not present. Nobeto Fernandez, writing from Bamenda. Yes, it's not politicians all the time. let the lawyers say their thing. Yeah, they should talk about their issues. This one says, mankind will never see an end of trouble until lovers of wisdom come to hold political power, or the holders of power become lovers of wisdom. Prince Fonkem, writing from Mutengene. This one says, a majority of politicians in Cameroon have been killed and destroyed by greed. There is no hope for our country unless our politicians start working for the good of Cameroonians. Okay. This one says, good evening, Mr. Liu. The government of Cameroon don't belong to the people, and politicians are just helping them to confuse us the more. Sankara is writing from Kumba. This one says, good evening, Mr. Liu. You are doing a wonderful job out there. Your panelists are wonderful, especially the lawyers. Your journalist colleague should pipe down a bit. It's just not only okay. This is Honorable Bonduku and Eret, writing from Kumba. Good evening to you, Honorable. Good evening, Kumlio. Politicians and political parties have helped to destroy Cameroon. Why, after 1992, the politicians have been fighting to fill their pockets? That is why developments have gone back to 1960s. Paul is writing from Bamenda. Good evening, Mr. Liu and the entire panel. It's unfortunate that Anglophones are dealing with a government that is blind, deaf, adamant, and determined never to listen to those they consider Anglophones, okay? Hans Aristotle Mock, writing from Boya. Emmanuel Ebwe, writing from Tole, says, good evening, Mr. Leo and all the panelists. Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. A stitch in time saves 9. Greetings to all the loving people of Tole. Now, what do we do in the face of what is happening with politicians? Is it time to pray for God to give us a new breed of politicians, or how do we twist them to start working in the interests of the people?
Well, first of all, the thing we need to do is that the civil society organization need to sit up, educate the people on what they expect from the politicians, the role of politics in their life. And when the civil society educate the people on the role of politics in the nation's development, I think the people will learn to take their leadership and learn to rise above the existing political landscape we have. As far as the civil society is kind of piped down low as of what they do, we will still be in this mess, because you not expect the common man to just rise up and start talking. The common man needs to be educated on the role of politics as far as whether elections or whatever is concerned. The civil society needs to sit down, and the political parties too need to organize seminars, conferences to educate the people on the roles, on their model operandi and what they expect from them. As far as we don't have seminars, we don't have conferences of political parties. It's not just when election is coming, you come and call people and talk to them, I'll buy you this, I'll buy you that. Sometimes parties should do what we call corporate social responsibility, educate the masses of their responsibility in the development of the nation, such that these people understand where we are coming from and where we are going to. But when you keep and wait only during the period of elections, that you come and campaign and you make people feel like the politics end only during elections, it doesn't speak well.
Okay, do we need a new breed of politicians in Cameroon?
Well, I wouldn't say we need a new breed. I think that what is important is for us, first of all, to be a little bit conscious of our individual rights. Once we understand our rights and we are ready to defend those rights, things will change. Let me give you an example. When this Anglophone crisis began, and the lawyers had put up a 1-week strike in common law jurisdictions, a meeting was summoned in Yaoundé in 2016 that the Vice President of the National Assembly, Honorable Fako Monjoa, chaired. That meeting included all the Anglophone members of Parliament, CPDM, SDF, and all the other parties, and held a meeting with lawyers for 1 whole day. They came out with a communique, a resolution in which they outline and catalog the problems which had to be resolved. And each and every one of these parliamentarians present signed those documents, and the lawyers signed. At that point in time, I think that the honorable members of parliament acted in a manner that demonstrated that they wanted to resolve this problem. It means that they have the capacity, if there is good faith, to resolve these problems. But a day or two after they signed these resolutions, the honorable member of parliament, Vice President Fako, took these resolutions to Parliament, to his bosses, to her bosses. In fact, the Anglophone parliamentarians were scolded, and the resolutions were trashed. Which means that if these problems had been nipped in the bud, you would have seen that the politicians would have contributed a lot in preventing this crisis. But as I said, the politicians are powerless. They were frightened out of their positions, and they called in, and none of them has ever raised a voice or a finger thereafter. So politicians have the potential to change things. But the problem is that, will those who consider themselves the owners of this country allow them to work? And the second aspect is that, yes, we need to change. We need to change. Those who man our political institutions today, they are in their 80s. We need young, budding talents young, energetic people in their 40s and 50s to take over this country and bring in fresh ideas on how to run a country that is as diverse as Cameroon.
Okay. Mr. Leo, greetings to all the panelists. The politicians in Cameroon have failed candidate people. Immediately they voted, they become hand clappers and defending only self-interest. They don't represent their people, be it ruling or opposition. They have all failed woefully. Ebontui Ikamba is writing from Yaoundé. Good evening to you, Ebot. Good evening, Mr. Leo. Is Sule from Kumba just coming in now? Okay, Sule, good evening to you. Good evening, Mr. Leo. There is no good politician in Cameroon again. Derek is writing from Kumba. So says we should stop fooling ourselves that Cameroon is being ruled by a president. Okay. Okay. Elvis is writing from Kumba. Surely it's a president that is ruling Cameroon. Elvis. Yes. Greetings, Mr. Kumlena. Thanks for the second program. I think everyone is entitled to his or her own opinion. I think politicians in Cameroon are the worst people in Cameroon, especially the Anglophone politicians. They are just there working for their personal interests. Okay, Mohammed is writing from Morocco. Good evening to you, Mohammed. This one says, I'm sorry to divide the topic a bit. Let us judge this. We have a Minister of Basic Secondary and Higher Education. How can the Minister of Secondary Education release a communique stopping holiday classes at all levels, and the other ministers are saying nothing about it? What kind of politics is that? Okay. Clifford writing from Douala. Politicians have destroyed the country because they are not treating us like Cameroonians. National ID card that was supposed to be given to us, but we are forced to buy it. Okay. Good evening, Mr. Liu, and all the panelists in the studio. Your program are always so inspiring. Politicians in Cameroon are a failure, as they all have much love for power. Joe is writing from Boya. It's not all about building a new breed of politicians, but rather will those who call themselves the boss of the country accept this resolution? Anthony is also writing from Boya. This one reads, good evening, Leo. The only real political party in Cameroon is the SDF. Any other political party is CPDM in disguise. We are aware only Frunzi has given us a voice to speak in this nation. What should change in the political landscape of Cameroon, Mr. Valentine?
Yeah, I think all of us should make our introspection. It is very easy to say politicians as if they come from Mars. I think we are all citizens, and the Greek philosopher Aristotle said, man is a political animal. You cannot stay in your house and you expect things to happen. You have to be involved in the political activity of your country. Register and vote, and those who opportune to have political positions should summon courage and come out and say the truth. They should have that conviction and put the people first. That's all about changing this country, putting the people first. If all the CPDM parliamentarians or mayors who claim to have been elected, if they can put the people first and put that thing that they call party discipline, I don't know whether they were elected on the basis of party discipline aside, and say the truth and feel the pain and the agony of the people, I think Cameroon will be a better place.
Okay, Cameroon will be a better place. It is here that we draw the curtains for today's edition of the program. Just to remind us that tomorrow when we meet 7 p.m., we are going to be going through the communique or the press conference of Professor Maurice Kamto, who says that if any elections are organized in Cameroon before the resolution of the Anglophone crisis, he's going to lead a giant movement to chase the current president out of power. We don't know whether he's going to do it the Burkinabe style or after what we witnessed in Mali and what is ongoing in Guinea. We want to thank you all who took time off to follow the program, especially to you, Barrister Eno Benjamin, all the way from the Southwest region. Thank you for coming.
Thank you. It's my pleasure.
Okay. Also, thank you to you, Barrister.
Yeah, thank you, Leonard. It's been a pleasure, and I feel honored to be here.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks to the management of BT Media, and of course, good evening once more to the head of state.
Certainly, the head of state got your greetings this evening. Good evening to you all who took time off to watch the program, especially to the production team. Stay blessed. Bye-bye.